So welcome to the January 18th Measure G Oversight Committee. City meetings may be observed live on the Salinas channel on YouTube or Comcast channel 25. At this time, can we rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? Committee Member Sandoval, can you recite the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yeah, ready, begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next is roll call. Clerk, can you do the roll call?
Committee Member Eggers. Committee Member Hernandez. Committee Member Ish.
Here.
Committee Member Sandoval.
Here.
Committee Member Smith. Committee Member Swenson.
Here.
Chair Barrera.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is public comment. Anybody from the public wish to make a public comment? You have 2 minutes. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Marika Desmond. I'm from the Salinas Taxpayers Association. We submitted a letter today. I want to thank, just highlighting some of the outstanding questions that we weren't sure had been addressed yet by staff about that committee members had for these oversight committees. These committees are vital to the public trust. They, our accountability, our front line for taxpayers, and so we are grateful to staff for how they've partnered to give information. The 6-month budget report that was released for the last committee was so helpful to see transfers out and specific departments that were funded. As we approach the renewal of this measure, these kinds of answers are really vital, not just because of the specific information, but to build public trust and partnership. So thank you very much. We'll continue to be watching, but thank you for committee members and staff for all your time and dedication to oversight of this measure. Thank you.
And thank you for your email. I look forward to our meeting. Anybody else? Okay. Let's see. Next is the consent agenda. Would anybody like to pull the consent agenda? It's only one item, minutes of October 19th.
I motion to approve consent agenda items.
Is there a second?
Second.
Clerk?
Committee Member Ish.
Aye.
Committee Member Sandoval.
Aye.
Committee Member Swenson.
Aye.
Chair Barrera.
Aye.
Motion pass.
Thank you. Next, administrative report. Mr. Pedroza, you are up.
Good evening. My name is A. Pedroza. I'm a senior finance management analyst in the finance department. This is the Measure G fiscal year 23-24 quarter 2 financial report as of December 31st. Per our normal process, please note these numbers are unaudited. This is the operating budget versus actuals, both revenue and expenditures. Before I begin, I would like to provide clarification on the level of detail provided in the quarterly financial reports, as there appeared to be confusion at our prior meeting. As part of the PowerPoint presentation, as you can see on the screen now, is a summary by department. The information is presented this way to provide a concise summary as we discuss the quarterly and year-to-date activity. However, consistent with the financial reporting provided since the inception of Measure G and the Measure G Committee, the financial reports attached to the agenda and available to the public, which are also before you now in hard copy form, offer much more detail. Specifically, the revenue is provided by type, the operating expenditures are listed by program, division, or activity, the specific transfers in and out are itemized, and the CIP expenditures are recorded by individual project. Moving on to the quarterly report, the top section is revenue. 34% received as of December 31st, or halfway through the fiscal year, appears concerning. However, if you recall, the revenues shown here are on the accrual and not cash basis method of accounting, and therefore reflect the months of July through October as we receive payment from the state 2 months in arrears. 4 out of 12 months is 33%, so that would be a good benchmark for the transaction and use tax revenues. As you can see, we are coming in slightly ahead of pace at 34% for the first 4 months, with November revenues expected to be received in the coming days. The next section is expense by department, at the risk of sounding overly brief, as there will be opportunity for specific questions later. The entirety of this section is very straightforward, with nothing of concern identified. Administration, HR, finance, community development, police, fire, and public works all come in at or under budget, mostly due to salary savings associated with vacancies throughout the city. The recreation department appears slightly ahead of pace. However, the department has a good habit of encumbering high-dollar contracts for services, therefore skewing the percentages upwards. The department is not expected to be over budget at year-end. The next section is the transfers. Capital projects is at 0% transfer due to timing, although various expenditures have been made and will be discussed in the next slide. Transfers out to the internal service funds are made twice per year, with the first half occurring in December, and accordingly are 50% transferred at the midpoint of the fiscal year. Transfers out to fund debt service, mainly the police services building, also occur twice per year and coincide with when the debt service payments are made. This is the capital improvement program budget versus actuals with the summary by department. It is important to note, as identified on screen and in the quarterly report, that this is as of November 30th, as it takes finance staff time to complete the monthly CIP expenditure and reimbursement process. The detail by project is provided on the report, which is rather extensive and includes every project Measure G has funded since the inception in fiscal year 15-16. The first few columns on the left are the prior fiscal years, 15-16 through 22-23. The columns in the middle are the current fiscal year, 23 through 24, or excuse me, 23-24. And the columns on the right are the total life to date. The columns on the right were included to provide additional context to some of the percentages. For example, you'll see low percentages spent in the current fiscal year column, but as you look to the life-to-date column, you'll see higher spending relative to the total budgeted amount for all fiscal years. At this time, we are 67% spent citywide on Measure G CIP's life-to-date. Here's the cash balance of the Measure G fund by month for the first half of the fiscal year. As you can see, we began the year with $21.4 million in cash and are currently at $24.6 million. Of this amount, approximately $16.6 million is earmarked for capital project carryover, with another $8.4 million set aside for reserves as detailed on the next slide. Fiscal year-end adjustments will further decrease the amount. Therefore, although the fund shows a healthy cash position, there is significantly less in available fund balance. Lastly, these are the reserve amounts of the Measure G fund, which are identical to our previous meeting. The 115 Trust Reserve is at $2.7 million. The Community Center District 5 Reserve is at $1.2 million. The Economic Contingency Reserve is at $3.6 million. And the Infrastructure Maintenance Reserve is at $900,000. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you very, very much for your report. Questions?
I just want to go back one slide, and maybe I just didn't hear the number correctly, because I was looking at the beginning balance of 24 million, and I thought maybe you said 21 million
Yeah, you
somewhere.
said 21.
Yeah.
Oh, did I say 21?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, it's maybe well, it's 24.1 million is what I meant to say.
Oh, okay. All right.
Sorry about
Thank
that.
you. Okay. No problem.
Okay. Committee Member Sandoval?
You mentioned that there was a breakdown on the next slide for the 24 million as far as, but then on the next slide, it didn't have a breakdown of that amount. Because you mentioned 16 million was earmarked for capital improvement projects. And then you mentioned something, if I remember correctly, from your doing your report, that it said on the next slide, it would be a breakdown. Or were you just talking specifically about the reserves only?
Yeah, I was talking about of this 24 million, 8.4 million was dedicated to reserves on the, as detailed on the next slide.
Okay. And then the 16 million would be the capital improvements that's kind of set aside. Is that what I understood?
Correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Committee Member Swenson?
Yeah, I have a question. For the last slide on the reserve, with the District 5 funding for the rec center, is that in the community center District 5 reserve? Is that the rec center?
I'm sorry? Well,
So funding for the rec center for District 5, is that? So
correct. That's,
the one-
yeah, Community Center District 5 Reserve, 1.2 million.
Oh, so what's the status on that? Is that?
So we have a number of large projects that we're currently working on, and so as soon as we get a little bit further down the road in terms of specifically with the brand-new Hebron facility, we'll be coordinating with Public Works to take a look at that.
Okay. And do you know if it's going to cost that 1.2 million, or is you're putting more in for that?
So the reserve in Measure G is 1.2, and there's also another reserve, I think, close to 6.8 million, 6.9 million in Measure E.
Okay.
So that's what we're working with, a total of 8.1. Sorry, my math is off today.
Thank you.
And Mr. Pedrosa, at the top under revenue, 34%. So that's what's been used so far of this year's Measure G money?
No, that's what's been received in revenue versus what we've budgeted.
Okay. And you said that the payment, the next payment is going to be received very soon?
Yeah, so we get it 2 months in arrears, and so it usually comes around the 20-something of the month. So in January 20, it'll be November revenues.
And how much is actually received then?
For Measure G, it's around 3 to 4 million per month.
Okay. And also my last question, so out of all of Measure G for right now, how much is being spent on sidewalks and potholes and infrastructure type stuff? Out of the 30 million that we get yearly?
We're talking,
I don't know if I have the specifics on that. On page 2 of 3, we have street maintenance and public works. And let me just go to it. And we also have the detail of the CIPs. I don't have that. Do you have the CIPs? So on pages 4 through 5, 6, 7 are all the CIPs. So we could go through and look at the public works CIPs and see which ones are related to streets. But I don't have the details on that necessarily.
Yeah, I've always wondered how much was actually being spent. Do you think you can get the details and we can have a meeting together? If you don't mind?
Yeah, well, the details are here in the report. Actually, I just found, let's see, page 7 of 9, street preventative maintenance program. 6 million budgeted, no expenses yet. Sidewalk drainage repairs. Anyways, yeah, we'd have to go through the CIP report.
All right.
what was the sidewalks and drainage?
What was the what?
What was the amount for sidewalk and drainage? You have 6 million for streets.
2 million was budgeted in CIP 9720 sidewalk and drainage repairs.
So combined, they're basically
Combined 8 million.
8 million.
Yeah.
A little over 8 million. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
was going to have you call on me. Thank you, Abe. And I wanted to note that we did tell the Measure E meeting right before this that we are going to do a better job when something goes to the council relating to E, or in this case relating to G, we will get you that report rather than replicate it all, bring something different back to you. And we've done it a little bit with you guys, but we're going to try to do it consistently. I do know now that coming in February, the next big sidewalk project, as you know, in '23, we were digging up a lot of sidewalks throughout all of Salinas. The next big one, bids have been received and will be going to council in February, I believe is the date. Multi-millions of dollars, and that's probably the 6th that Abe just mentioned. So stay tuned, and we'll do a better job of getting you, when it goes to council, get you that information.
And from all that work, will it show whether it's coming out of G or if it's coming out of?
Yeah, the staff report will talk about the funding source. And you're right, some of them are combined for different sources. So we will do that.
Great, and thank you.
Question I have on, so I believe there were like 8 sites that were getting the sidewalks done in across all of the city or something like that?
I can't remember the number of sites, but all over town.
Something
Yeah.
like that. Is that all complete?
It's near complete for the last project. They still have some finishing work. I don't have it all. They were finishing up, though. And we had 4 or 5 large bids, as I understand it, for the next ones coming with this, or a portion of this money, if not all. And that'll be coming in February, so.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
Just comments. I know the budget process is coming up for the city of Salinas, so I know when people come to ours or Measure E, there's always a concern as far as how much money is spent on each category. When we review, it's money already spent. So I think the biggest contribution you can make is when the city council is going to vote on its budget, is really advocating for whatever departments go into which money, because we always just review what was spent afterwards. So keep that in mind.
All right, next, public comment.
Oh,
Yes.
I have another question I wanted to answer. So from a standpoint of staff salaries, anything coming from Measure G going to staff salaries?
Absolutely.
Okay, and what is that?
Dozens of positions. I don't have it offhand, but I bet you it's 110 positions.
111.
111. So I was close at 110.
Okay. So what is that amount to for, I'm going to try to say this carefully, I guess it would be through year 23, because the beginning of 23, or the ending of 23 and then 24 combined to be 24.
We'll have to, I'm not going to have finance guess at it now. We'll have to look at that.
Okay, well, I very much would like to get that number out on the table so we understand how many positions we're funding and what the total amount is.
Okay. And by total amount, I want to emphasize that there's salary in there, there's health care, there's work and compensation insurance, there's pension.
If you could go by.
I don't know if it'll be broken. I suppose it will be broken down. Okay.
I think you should be able to break that down, yes. So I think that's a very important piece I believe that's a very important piece for the people to understand, in addition to how many positions are being funded.
Very good.
And I believe it's around 111.
Yeah. So, no, we will get that. Kristen, do you remember offhand for Measure E, just curiously, how many positions? Because many of them are in your shop. It's 80-something, or there's, between E and G, many city positions, as you recall, were put on these dollars. The libraries were going to shut down in the early O's, and that's what happened. But we can get you some of that information. With the things that you guys have asked about square footage before, and the cost of concrete changes every time we have a bid. And so it's very hard to do. And so I hate to say it's, and David comes up and helps us, our Public Works Director, but it changes every time. And I'm curious to see the 4 or 5 bids that we received for the concrete work coming up, because you're going to see they're all over the map.
But I would also hope that we're continuing to somewhat have a scorecard. Are we gaining or are we losing as far as on the streets and the sidewalks? On the sidewalks, I think we're gaining, but I clearly believe we are losing on the streets in a pretty big way.
Okay, and with that, since no public comment, committee member, final comments? No? No? All right, no action is required on this item. Deemed it received. Okay, committee members' reports or comments? Committee member Ish?
I think I've just made my two major comments I probably don't want to make, but
All right.
I believe if we're going to have to understand how many positions are being funded out of Measure G so that the public understands where the dollars are going.
Okay.
I think that's the main message I'm trying to drive here tonight.
Right. All right, duly noted. Committee member Sandoval? No? Committee member Swenson?
Yeah, I think I just want to comment that Measure G is up for renewal in a few years,
It's actually up, it's up for sunsetting.
sunsetting.
Yes.
And I would want to know what, my comment is, what's the city going to do to get that approved? Because right now, I don't know if it would be approved. And clearly, I think if we didn't have the money, we couldn't pay people. And we couldn't, I mean, it would be, but it seems like that's an issue that needs to be addressed.
I agree, Committee Member Swenson. And also, I would like to state that the city's doing a lot of work. A lot of streets are being fixed in areas that have been ignored for decades. And so my hat's off to the city workers and to city council. Even on Northridge Drive, there was like 10 or 12 sites that were fixed, and one of them was when I was running for mayor. That was in one of my commercials, and it's gone now. So my hat's off to the city, and let's keep it up. But I would like to see more money coming out of Measure G for infrastructure. So with that, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Next meeting is April 18th, 2024. Thank you.